All right. Joining Sports Chat with Matt is my good friend, Todd Townsend, former Marquette player, 4-year player there. He was a starter on the 2003 Final Four team alongside D. Wade, and he has coached at multiple Division I schools outside of his time at Marquette. Todd, welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I am doing great, man. I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be on the show.
Absolutely. So, if you don't mind, what are you up to these days? I'm sure Marquette fans are curious.
Yeah, well, I don't know how curious they are for someone who played, 20 years ago, but I'm back in the area, in the Milwaukee area. I think we moved back here in 2015 to take a job at UWM to coach there for a year, and then that guy left to go to Butler. I stayed around, took a year off coaching, moved to Valpo University in Valparaiso, Indiana. My wife was like, "Yeah, you can go, but I'm not gonna go." So I did that for a short period of time, but then came back here and um, just started a small logistics company and kind of built it into some other little small businesses. Right now, I'm in my Mako Audi Body shop office in Menominee Falls, where we paint cars and fix small dents and things of that nature. So I just pay the bills, but it's just kind of became a little small entrepreneur.
Awesome. No, that's really cool to hear. I have a lot of respect for that
Yeah.
entrepreneurial mindset you have.
Yeah.
So, well, let's dive into Marquette basketball. So last season, Marquette had a really solid season, made the NCAA tournament as a
Yeah.
9 seed.
Yeah.
They surprised a lot of people.
Yeah.
There were not high expectations heading to the year, but behind Justin Lewis having a great year and Daryl Morcell really
Hmm.
expanding his offensive game since his time at Maryland.
Hmm.
Those two were the two-headed monster that led Marquette to the NCAA tournament. Now,
Hmm.
obviously, Daryl Morcell exhausted all his eligibility. So
Yeah.
did Kerr,
Yeah.
and Lewis went pro early. Sharpshooter Greg Elliott transferred, and now coming into Marquette this season, you have a 3-man freshman class,
Hmm.
and you have one transfer from NAIA. I hope I got that right.
Yeah.
Zach Reitzel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your general thoughts so far heading into this season?
Well, I think they're going to surprise some teams again. I really do. At what level, I don't know. And no one knows. I think the staff is very excited. I think people around Marquette basketball that's very close to them are very excited. About the future of Marquette, and obviously with Shaka being there, um, he has always been an underdog. You can say, like at VCU. Obviously, with the job he's done there, even when he went to Texas, he recruited at such a high level. I think
Yeah.
he had some crazy like 4 NBA players in 4 years, with all those guys left early, um, and and they still won a lot of games. And even last year, it's coming here in his first year. I think with the combination of some of the older guys that was returning, they had some young players, obviously, and then getting a transfer um, obviously helped them probably, and some other people that people eyes outside the program overachieve. I think they are. I think that it gave them. I think it gave the younger guys that's on the roster now that was on there last year a chance to grow and develop without sacrificing losing.
Mhm.
And so I think they got a pretty good chance to be pretty good again.
Yeah, and like you said, you think they're going to surprise people.
Yeah.
Expectations are not high once again.
Mhm.
The Big East coaches had a poll and they ranked Marquette, I believe, ninth out of 11 teams.
Yeah.
Uh, so once again, just like last year, people are sleeping on them, and Marquette is kind of taking a different approach than a lot of the a recent memory, I would say, where they are building with from within
Mhm.
with expecting guys to make jumps in their games
Yeah.
instead of going to the portal and really shoring up their team. I mean, they did bring Zach Reitzel in, but from the Buzz era, you got bring in guys like Jameel Wilson. You got Trent Lockett. Wojo definitely used a lot of transfers. And last season, Shaka brought in Daryl Morcell and Kerr. So they're kind of changing the approach. Are you a little surprised that Shaka didn't make a bigger splash in the portal than what he did?
No, because if you look at what he's done, and again, this is not like inside information or whatever, but like even last year, like he could have came in with his name, with his recruiting ability, with his staff that he has, with Dre and all those guys that are really good recruiters. I think he said more than he said yes in terms of recruiting. People want to play for Shaka. Now, whether they're the right fit or not, I think he has. And then if you look at it, like last year, he lost some people because of the coaching change, but he was able to keep Justin Lewis on board.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I just heard this story the other day that I was with Cam Murata the other day, and we were playing golf. Well, I was hitting golf balls all the way, in other people's fairways, and we afterwards we were talking about Marquette basketball, and he actually went on some of those home visits with Shaka when he got the job, and the job that he did, like not just selling to the parents, to the players, but to the parents and AAU coaches and things of that nature. Like there's people beating down the door that want to play for Marquette.
Yeah.
Is it the right fit? Even last year at the end of the year, outside of Greg Elliott, like they didn't have what other teams had. Like it wasn't like a ton of players left. They got a young kid and he tore his ACL. He's from the Quad Cities. People haven't seen him play yet. And I forget the young man's name, but he is as talented as a kid. He's kind of a Dwight Bikes type player. Like he didn't play last year. I went to a practice last year, and for the whole practice, he just flipped a tire because he was not playing at the expectations that Shaka wanted him to play or practice at. And typically when that happens in today's world, kids leave.
Yeah.
He didn't play, much last year. Like kids, he had a lot of people recruiting him. He could have easily left. But he didn't. And I think Shaka has created a culture of kids that, kids don't want to leave. They want to be coached hard. They want to be developed. And I think he has been very picky. They got a young kid, Jones, they got a young point guard coming in from Ohio that's I think going to surprise a lot of people. I think the whole transfer portal thing is by choice more than by lack of options.
Yeah. And I will say that Marquette did not have a lot of people transfer, even when Shaka went in, he did retain Justin Lewis. And this past year, I don't even know if anybody transferred out.
Other than Greg Elliott, like he used his fifth year, and I don't know where he went.
Pittsburgh, I think. Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh. And there's, Jake Pasuti is there, so there's some connections there. But he could have went home. But think about that. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal that no one has left. It's not like we got football money and things of that nature, but it's for getting unbelievable NLI deals. And it's got to be, from a culture standpoint, it's got to be because people want to be there.
Yeah. And one thing that did surprise me was that Lewis decided to go pro. Did that come as a surprise to you?
I don't know. It's one of those things is that obviously he was a great college player. He made a leap from year one to year two. I think a lot of that had to do with he was healthy. He missed some games his first year.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that had to do with his player development. But at 6'7", 6'8", you're not going to grow anymore. You kind of are who you are. I don't know. Like, he can average more points and have a great college career, but I don't know if his chances of he's not going to grow to be 6'9" or to be 6'10". He's going to continue to get better playing in the NBA or playing against more talented players. I don't know if his stock would have risen if he would have came back.
Sure.
But you can also make the argument that in today's world, he could have probably made just as much money,
Yeah.
with the name, image, and likeness.
See, that's the surprising part for me, is because Marquette fans are some of the most fanatical fans out
Mhm,
there
mhm,
with big time donors. I am
mhm,
surprised that they didn't throw a package together,
mhm.
with all the money and all the funds that would have
Yeah.
made Lewis say, "Hey, I'm coming back for another year," because why not be in college another year and make this much money?
Yeah, again, you can make the argument. I don't think he gave it a chance though. I mean, because he put his name in, and again, the whole name, image, and likeness thing. I think that if you're at a football school or Power Five school, those schools jumped ahead of schools like Xavier, Marquette, Butler, Villanova, all those, Creighton, all those private schools that, in that same profile. Like, even though those private schools have a lot of money, football money is different.
Yeah,
In those football programs, they were hiring people in those compliance departments. They were hiring people. They were on top of this way beforehand because they have, a lot more student athletes.
sure.
When you look at Alabama and you look at Bryce Jones, I mean, it was like, as soon as the NCAA changed the rule or whatever it was, like, he had $1 million, he had $1 million endorsements already.
Yeah,
Um, and again, those universities are more prep for that. You can even go like West Virginia basketball. As soon as that thing passed, it was like those guys had like car deals already,
mm,
legally. But it's mostly because those universities had the manpower to research, to go out to build this whole collective deal. Schools like Marquette, it takes time.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense or not, but it's football is a different
Yeah,
beast.
it's a different. Yeah, exactly. Took the words out of my mouth. That's
Yeah,
exactly what I was going to say.
yeah.
So moving off of Justin Lewis, getting back to this year's team, obviously there's some big shoes to fill with Lewis gone. Uh, do you think there's going to be any of the three freshmen breaking into the rotation this season? Have you heard anything?
I mean, I'm trying to think of the point guard from Ohio. I was trying to look him up. Oh, Sean Jones.
John
I
Jones.
think
Okay.
if he stays healthy, I think his athleticism, um, his playmaking ability, I think his energy level also plays into Shaka's. Like that. I think people love his energy and things of that nature. Coach Dre recruited him out of Ohio. I think he's going to be the one guy that breaks into it. And then you can see the young big kid Ben Gold.
Yeah.
If he's healthy, and again, like, physically, like, it's just hard to come in and play as a freshman.
Yeah.
You're thinking about, who he's going up against with Oso and those big kids like that. I think, those might be the two. And again, like, I don't want to, it's not like I, am on YouTube a ton or things of that nature, but I still talk to a lot of coaches around the country, and we talk about recruiting classes. We talk about a lot of things when it comes to Marquette basketball and other local schools. So, but again, I mean, I don't know how many minutes are out there either. I mean, you got
Yeah.
Tyler, coming back, you got Stevie coming back. I'm looking at the roster right now. You got Cam Jones coming back. I mean, it's, you know, they're going to have four guards already that's returning that play significant minutes, and I
Yeah.
don't know. Tyler could be playing for one of the top 10 teams in the country, and I still think he's going to be playing over 32 minutes a game because of the way that he plays. And,
Yeah.
I was talking to Travis Diener last week, and they said, he was watching him play, and his shot looks, phenomenal. He changed it. He put a ton of time in it. And again, like typically when that happens, it's still like an adjustment period because games are so much harder than pick up and all these, and all these other things. But Marquette's going to have when you think about these guards, Marquette's going to have a really good backcourt. They're going to have a really good backcourt, and I'm really surprised that they got picked 9th. But it's that stuff doesn't matter much.
No, it doesn't, not at all. I always find preseason rankings are overrated, but yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. That's one of the biggest things that Marquette needs to improve on, or a player does, is Colic needs to be more consistent shooting. I mean, last year he was 32% from the field, and if you say, like you said, if he improved that jumper, if he can raise that field goal percentage overall up to closer to 40% and get that 3-point percentage to at least 35%, that'd be huge for Marquette to make a run at making another NCAA tournament this year.
I'm sitting here looking at their roster right now. You still got Prosper, who had some really good moments last year, some really good moments, as a young guy. And then also had some great moments, and again, he had the luxury to play in the front court with the transfer kid from Oklahoma and Justin Lewis. So, again, he was one of those kids that I talked about earlier that he didn't have to play a ton of minutes last year. He played some really good minutes, developed, and Marquette didn't have to lose with him, playing a ton of minutes. So I think both Marquette gained with that last year, and then he also was able to develop.
Yeah. And going off the idea of building within, obviously we're going to need certain players to make jumps. Like you said, Cam Jones is going to be really good. Prosper's back. He was really good defensively, and he had his moments offensively. He's like 6'8". He's athletic. He's got great lateral quickness. I see him and Jones as two guys who really need to make that next jump. And also, but I think he'll be ready to roll. But who do you think is going to be Marquette's leading scorer this next season?
It's hard not to put Cam Jones in it.
Yeah,
I think the person that could probably surprise a lot of people, because when you look back, and again, it'd be interesting to see the data on this, but the young kid from Brooksville, David Joplin, I think he's a natural bucket. Like he it's like he made some threes last year. Like he got some buckets around. Like it's just natural because his natural ability to score. I think he could squeeze in there, but it's really hard to. I mean, Cam Jones is open when he walks up in the gym. At least he thinks he is, and like
that's
that,
huge.
And that's huge, right? You got to have confidence like that. Obviously, Tyler's going to be there. I think it's going to be a guard-heavy team. I think the one front court guy that could surprise people will probably be David.
Okay.
And again, I don't know, but like when
we're making predictions here.
Yeah, if you develop from where you were at last year, and again, he's one of those guys I talked about. He didn't have to play a ton of minutes. He's got quality minutes. He was playing behind a guy like Justin Lewis, and he was still able to play quality minutes last year in the Big East. Like that's big time.
100%. And going based off the players we have returning next season, I'm pretty confident saying that Colic's going to start, Cam Jones, Prosper, Oso, but then you have that 5th spot that's kind of wide open. Do you have any thoughts or predictions of
who did you say? You said Tyler,
Colic, Cam Jones, Prosper, and then Oso at the 5.
Yeah,
so probably a wing.
Yeah. And again, it depends on, I think, when you're prepping this time of the year, they're a week away from their first game. They're starting to put together different lineups and practice what it looks like. And then what's so cool about sports is like now is they're looking at film, and you think that you see one thing, like, man, that looks good. The ball flew, like the flow was so-and-so out there, with 4 guards out there. Or you might go back, like, you get one of these guys that works in the back room, and they bring some stats, and they're like, well, actually, we're pretty good offensively and defensively with David in there, you know? So I think it's one of those things that, like, I mean, you can predict what's going to happen, but it's going to be, I'm looking at their schedule right here, and they play, you're gonna get a lot of information. They say they play young Radford team. Like, actually, they're not young, new coach. Then they go to Central Michigan, a guy who's in his second year.
Yeah.
But then you got Purdue and West Lafayette.
Yeah,
Like,
that's always tough. Purdue's got one of the
and
best home court advantages in the country.
best home court advantage. Like, and Matt Painter's one of those guys that, like, very similar to Shaka. Like, they don't care about if you're a top 100 player. It's all about personnel fit and things like that. They run that motion offense. Like, defensively,
Beautiful.
they have been really good for a decade. Like, now you got that, and the cool thing is, though, Marquette's got a lot of guys on that roster that played in those environments. I went to the Providence game last year at Providence, and it was crazy. It was crazy environment. But a lot of those guys that are bad was, they played in that game, and then, so Marquette's got Mississippi State, Georgia Tech, Utah, like Baylor, Wisconsin, all these teams, a good North Carolina Central team that a lot of teams going to be surprised by when they come to Milwaukee here early December. They got Notre Dame. They get, and then they open up Big East play. So
yeah, they're going to be ready to roll when the Big East comes around.
They're going to be ready to roll. Like, Marquette does not have, an easy non-conference schedule. And then the other thing we don't know, Matt, and as you know from a person that played basketball, like, injuries, like, you don't know what Marquette is dealing with right now when it comes to injuries. And so, and even if a kid is playing, like, if they have one of those nagging injuries, that's Butler went through that last year.
They did.
Bryce Enzi, local kid here. I coached him at UWM. Like, he was hurt. He got hurt a week before the season started and was never the same. Like, could never produce, could never quite get back to where he was at. Like, they had two big injuries that guys played, but they were never healthy. So it's part of sports.
It's too bad. It's too bad for Laval Jordan that that's how it panned out. Because if those guys are healthy, the whole season, and they get to mesh together, there's a chance that Butler could have made an NCAA tournament. And he's still the coach at Butler. So, like you said, you never know what anybody's dealing with, and that's a huge component. You need to be lucky. You need to get some luck on your side if you want a special season.
You got to be lucky. You got to be able to eliminate. I don't know if it goes under the category as distractions or things of that nature, but you gotta have your dogs. You have to.
Yeah. So, heading into this next season with Marquette, who do you think the ultimate X factor is for this team to reach their goals?
I think you know what you're going to get from Tyler, even if he's shooting 40% from the three or 23% from the three. Again, you won't tell until those games come. I think you're still going to be I think you're still going to get a lot of production from that. And I know a lot of people go, well, your point guard play. I think it's going to be either Prosper or Joplin, really, because you want to see them develop. Like, those are the people that, like, they got to make jumps. So one of those two guys have to make a jump, because you can't really depend on a freshman. Like, if a freshman comes in and they're ready to play, great. That's unbelievable. That's gravy. But you really need one of those two guys that played good minutes last year, that had moments, that have now they're just, what you're getting from them.
Yeah.
Cam's going to score. Stevie had a great high school. Like, he's just a mature player. Like, he is going to be good. Like, he's going to be a good player. Like, what you're going to get out of those three guys. Prosper, who started some games last year, and David, who played some minutes behind a guy who's in the NBA right now. Like, those are the guys that have to make a jump.
Sure. And so for this upcoming season, like we said, there is a lot of question marks on, like, who's going to make that jump. What can we expect from these guys? But if you had to say right now, what the ceiling of this team would be, what do you think it is?
I think best case scenario, 6, 7 seed. I mean, you don't want to put a limit on young kids, like or whatever. I do think that if they stay healthy and they gel and again, we talked about the stuff that's not on paper, right? That chemistry, that culture. People don't, you can't measure that. And they, that's something that, it's a good chance they might have that. I think if they're not, I think there'd be some type of postseason team. I do think there might be an NIT team or worst case scenario, because they have those guys coming back and they are building something. I just don't think they can afford for one of those guards, another guard to go down. I don't from an injury. I don't think they can. So, but again, I'm an optimistic person. I can see this team making the NCAA tournament again. Just because, there was moments last year where people was like, man, I love this Marquette team. I love them. Like at some point, at one point in February, they get in the top 25. They was like, man, I love them. And it was, like they had this transfer from Maryland. They had Justin Lewis, and those guys had big games. But it wasn't like they were. It wasn't like they had to have a big game for Marquette to win. That helped, and I think that's again culturally. Like I think they're going to do it more together, and there's going to be a star that steps up, and someone's going to love. Someone's going to absolutely love. And again, we're not talking about the Division II transfer, the NAIA transfer that they brought in. They did research. The kid is probably going to play a lot of minutes. You don't bring a kid like that in not to play.
Sure. And if you were a betting man, does Marquette make the NCAA tournament this year?
Yeah, I would say they will.
All right.
I don't think there will be a time under Shaka that they won't. Not with the rules the way that they are now. I would think Marquette would probably go on. I would think they would go on a run of making NCAA tournaments again.
All right. And it has been since 2013 since Marquette has won an NCAA tournament game. Mm-hmm. When do you think Shaka gets that done?
I think he will finally get rewarded for something that he hasn't been able to do for a long time. And again, it's like you look back and it's how many one possession games has he lost in the NCAA tournament. I think the way that he's building this program, I can see them getting out of the NCAA tournament. Again, it might be an 8-9 game, and then it might go up to against a 1 seed in the next game, or it might be 5-12 game. So either way, I do see I'm bullish on this Marquette team.
All right, good deal, and we'll make one last prediction here. Mm-hmm. Obviously, one of the biggest games for Marquette is the Wisconsin-Marquette game. Mm-hmm. Give me a prediction, a month in advance. Who do you think gets that game?
Marquette. Yeah, Marquette. It's Marquette.
Why is that?
One, they don't have They don't have. I call him Kobe. Yeah, that second half of that game last year, I was able to attend that game in Madison.
Oh, all right. I was there too.
It was, the guy was like Kobe Bryant. Like it was his mid-range game. And again, it wasn't just against Marquette. He did it too. But, they don't have a guy like that. And obviously playing at home this year.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge in front of a sold-out crowd. That will be sold out crowd. I can see Marquette. I can see Marquette really, it's getting revenge from last year.
And that's the thing is now with the COVID year, there's not a single player on Wisconsin's team who's played at Marquette with fans.
Really,
and there's a decent amount of kids from out of state and even kids within the state who I don't think they realize what playing at Marquette in that game is like.
Yeah.
The formerly I was going to say the Bradley Center, formerly the Bradley Center, now the Fiserv Forum. It is jumping, and Marquette feeds off that energy. Where I think in that game, Wisconsin has to come ready right away if they want to win. Because Marquette's going to feed off that energy, and I think they're going to be ready to go, and they might smack them in the face right away. And if that's the case, you don't want to be playing from behind at that kind of environment.
Wow, that's a great point. I didn't even think about that because, again, you don't know what that rivalry is until you go play at Wisconsin or until you play in Milwaukee, whether it's the Bradley Center or the Fiserv. Like, you don't know until you get there. And like you said, you got guys that's been a part of Wisconsin for 3 years that have not played in front of a crowd in Milwaukee. It's going to be like an moment, you know.
I think so too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, man. That's like, you got me excited. I'm like ready right now. I'm like, let's go.
No,
that's awesome.
Yeah, last thing I got for you, Todd, is a rapid fire round where I'll just ask you a decent amount of questions. Just answer them in a timely fashion. Sound good?
Yep.
All right. First question is favorite teammate of all time?
Travis Dana.
Toughest individual matchup you've ever faced?
Josh Howard, Wake Forest University.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Best player in the NBA today?
Giannis.
MJ or LeBron?
MJ.
I like it. Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
02-03 Marquette or 76-77 Marquette Golden Eagles?
02-03 Marquette.
School you would have went to if it weren't Marquette?
Tulane.
Favorite movie?
Ooh, Hitch.
Favorite food?
Spaghetti.
Favorite school to beat?
Wisconsin.
Best home court in the country?
Marquette.
There we go. All right, Todd, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show, and looking forward to staying connected along the way.
Hey, you too, Matt. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed that, make sure to like and subscribe for more college basketball content. And Marquette fans, stay tuned as we'll have a part 2 with Todd where we talk about some behind-the-scenes stories that you've never heard of with Tom Crean, Dwyane Wade, and Travis Diener. You won't want to miss this.